A little darker over here today.
Same here. Yeah, all of a sudden.
Yeah, it's cloudy over here.
Yeah.
Chance of rain today? Okay, all right. Okay, so chapter 13, Kshetrajna Vibhaga Yoga. So, in this chapter, in your book, there is a one shlok missing where Arjuna asks the questions. So let me just tell you that, start the class with that particular shloka. So Arjuna says, Prakriti and Purush, also the field and the knower of the field, the knowledge and that which ought to be known, these I wish to learn, O Keshav. Okay, so he is showing a deep interest in knowing the real meaning of these terms. So that's why Lord Krishna starts this chapter answering these questions. So Lord Krishna said, O Arjun, this physical body, the miniature universe, may be called the field or creation. One who knows the creation is called the creator, or the spirit, Atma, God, Ishwar, by the seers of the truth. Okay? So when he says the miniature universe, that really means it's a microcosm. This little universe, this body itself is a miniature universe. Okay? So he says that is the field. So it's not just the physical body alone. This creation is a physical body, which is called a gross body, then the subtle body, and then the causal body. All of these three bodies is the field. And the Atma, which is part of Paramatma, is more the field. Who says it? The seers of the truth. Seers. Who is a seer? Seer is who sees it, who can see it clearly. That's a seer. O Arjun, know me to be the creator of all the creation. So not just only the microcosm, even the macrocosm. So he says, know me, the creator of the creation. I consider the true understanding of both the creator and the creation to be transcendental knowledge. So this ultimate knowledge is when you know both. What creation is, what it is like, what its transformations are, where the source of creation is, who that creator is, and what his powers are. Hear all these from me in brief. The seers have separately described the creation and the creator in different ways in the Vedic hymns, and also in the conclusive and convincing verses of other scriptures. So Lord Krishna is saying that, hey, I'm not telling you anything new. All this has been explained in the Vedas before. See, in Sanskrit it's called Brahma Sutra and Upanishads. Let me read it again. The seers have separately described as the creation and the creator in different ways in the Vedic hymns. Okay, so in the Vedas, there are 4 Vedas: Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sam Veda, and Atharva Veda. 4 Vedas. Each Veda has 3 sections. First part of the section is always about the nature of the creation. This creation is so beautiful. Those rishis, the seers, they saw it. So beautiful creation. Then the second part is they started singing the beauty of the creation as well as the creator. Okay. Then the last part of the Vedas, all four Vedas is called the Upanishads, the Gyan Kand. They just, these rishis, they said, yeah, nature is beautiful, creator is beautiful, but how to know the creator? How do I get to know? How do I immerse in this creator? So Lord Krishna says, the seers have separately described the creation and the creator in different ways in the Vedic hymns and also in the conclusive and convincing verses. So that means that all this is explained logically, beautifully in the Vedas. Then he says, the primary material nature, the cosmic intellect, I, consciousness or ego, 5 basic elements, 10 organs, mind, 5 sense objects, and desire, hatred, pleasure, pain, the physical body, consciousness, and willpower. Thus, the entire field has been briefly described with its transformations. So, all of these things which he talked about, that is part of the field, the Kshetra. Okay? See, the primary material nature. Primary material nature is those 5 basic elements. The cosmic intellect. So whether it's an intellect at the personal level or at whether it's at the aggregate level, that's a cosmic. Everybody's intellect together. I, the ego. The 5 basic elements, 10 organs. 10 organs means the organs of perception and organs of actions, 5 and 5. The mind, 5 sense objects. The desire, where does the desire come from? It's in the mind. So that's also part of the Prakriti. Hatred, pleasure, pain, the physical body, the consciousness. See, this consciousness does not mean Atma over here. See, sometimes this consciousness word is used for Atma also, because it's very hard to translate these Sanskrit terms in another language. So this consciousness is like a Chetanta in us. That is a consciousness. And the willpower. Thus, the entire field has been briefly described with its transformations. So these are all different modifications of the basic energy. I shall fully describe the Supreme Being, the object of knowledge. By knowing this, one attains immortality. The beginningless Supreme Being is said to be neither eternal nor temporal. In Sanskrit, he used the word sat and asat. Neither it's sat nor asat. It's beyond that. Because when we talk about sat and asat, that is like a pairs of the opposites. So in that sense, God is beyond that. The Supreme Being has his hands, feet, eyes, head, mouth, and ears everywhere because he is all pervading and omnipresent. See, we normally understand the body or the existence with the help of these organs. So that's why we say that God is seeing us all. So that's why it said that eye is everywhere. God can hear us. He has the ears everywhere. So even without these sense organs, he is doing all the actions which are being described. He knows it all. He is the perceiver of all sense objects without the physical sense organs, unattached, and yet the sustainer of all, devoid of all 3 modes of material nature, and yet the enjoyer of the modes of material nature by becoming the living entity. He is inside as well as outside all beings. Okay. So in other words, he could be the smallest of the smallest and the biggest of the biggest. Because inside, for God to be inside anything, has to be very small. And outside of everything, he has to be big. So he is inside of a little, whether we call it an atom or a proton or even a smaller particle, whatever the smallest particle we can think of, he's inside of that also. And he's outside of this earth also, he's outside of the solar system also, he's outside of the whole creation also. Okay, so he's inside as well as outside all beings, animate and inanimate. He is incomprehensible because of his subtlety. When something becomes so subtle, it's very hard to comprehend. So that's why he is saying he is incomprehensible because of its subtlety and because of his omnipresence. Omnipresence means it's present everywhere. He is very near, residing in our inner psyche as well as far away in the supreme abode. He is undivided. So that means it's not just he's in me and you. He's in between also. Because our mind divides it. We think God is only in this form or in this temple or in this person. No, everywhere. He is undivided yet appears to exist as if divided in living beings. He is the object of knowledge and appears as the creator, Brahma, sustainer, Vishnu, and destroyer, Mahesh, of all beings. The Supreme Being is the source of all lights. He is said to be beyond darkness of ignorance. He is self-knowledge, the object of self-knowledge, seated in the inner psyche as consciousness or Ishwar of all beings. He is to be realized by self-knowledge. So what is the goal? To have the self-knowledge, we want to know God. Okay, so that's why he said he is to be realized by self-knowledge. Thus, I have briefly described creation as well as self-knowledge and the object of self-knowledge. Understanding this, my devotees attain my supreme abode. Know that both the material nature and the spiritual being are beginningless. So material nature is what? This Maya or the Prakriti. So when he says know that both the material nature and the spiritual being are beginningless, sometimes it gets confusing for people. Then what is the difference? They both are beginningless. That means they're always there. They were there, they are there, they will be there. So what is the difference? Difference is the material nature changes. But the spirit does not change. That is the big difference. Okay, material nature just keeps on changing. Even though it's beginningless, keeps on changing. All manifestations and three dispositions of mind and matter, called modes or gunas, are born of material nature. Okay, so that satvikta, rajsikta, tamsikta, which we talk about, they are part of the material nature, the prakriti. Material nature is said to be the cause of production of physical body and organs of perception and action. Spirit or consciousness in the individual soul is said to be the cause of experiencing pleasure and pain. So the creation happened because of the material nature, But the spirit in the individual soul is said to be the cause of experiencing pain and pleasure. So the activity in the mind, activity in the intellect, it can happen only when the soul is there. When the soul is not there, it's inert. When there's a wedding between the soul and the matter, only then there is a activity. Spiritual being, by becoming Jiva, enjoys three modes of material nature by associating with the material nature. Attachment to the three modes of material nature due to ignorance caused by previous karma is the cause of birth of the living entity in good and evil wombs. So what is the real cause? Due to ignorance. And what is this ignorance? Ignorance means not knowing yourself. We moved away from the real knowledge about ourselves, and that became the cause of this birth. That's why it's called ignorance. Ignorance about your real identity. The spirit in the body is the witness, the guide, the supporter, the enjoyer, the controller of all events, and also the supreme self. Sometimes this verse gets very confusing for people. Ideally, it is the witness, but when we forget that it's a witness, then we just come little at a notch lower and then the lower and the lowest. That means we forget who we are. When we remember who we are, we just stay as a witnesser. We become the sakshi. We become the seer. That is like a highest level. Okay? But when we say, no, my Atma is enjoying or it's a suffering, that is from a Jivatma point of view we are talking about. That means we really cannot keep the separation between the Atma and the Prakriti. Okay, so in that sense, he says the spirit in the body has these three according to our own understanding. Then he says, they who truly understand spirit and material nature with its three modes are not born again, regardless of their way of life. Regardless of way of life means it's not that only the priests or the priestly class or the gurus, no matter where we are, but if we have understood the difference between the Atma and the Prakriti, we have experienced it, we have realized it, then he says, you don't come back again. So in other words, the whole journey over here is to know who we are in the real sense. Some perceive the super soul in their inner psyche through mind and intellect that have been purified either by meditation or by metaphysical knowledge or by selfless service. So these are different ways we can achieve that. So that ultimate realization can happen with the help of the meditation, or it can happen with the selfless service. So no matter which path we take, it could be a Karam Yoga, it could be a Gyan Yoga, it could be a Bhakti Yoga, it could be a Dhyan Yoga. But the goal is the same. Others, however, do not know the yogas of meditation, knowledge and selfless service, but they perform deity worship with firm faith and loving devotion. As mentioned in the scriptures by the saints and sages, they also transcend death by virtue of their firm faith in what they have heard. So you just believe, you just surrender. Through that surrender, and surrendering really means surrendering of your ego. So your lower self you have surrendered, and you can attain that too. Whatever is born animate or inanimate, know them to be born from the union of spirit and matter. So this is the fact, O Arjuna. Okay. So animate or inanimate, know them to be born from the union of spirit and matter. So nothing can be together without that Atma, or we call it Brahm also sometimes. Okay. One who sees the one and the same imperishable Supreme Lord dwelling as a spirit or Ishwar equally within all perishable things, beings, truly sees. So this is what we need to work on. One who sees the one and the same imperishable Supreme Being. So in other words, seeing that God or the divine light or the essence everywhere in all things, everywhere, same one. He says that person is truly seeing. When one beholds one and the same Ishwar existing equally in every being, one does not harm anybody. Right? When you see the sameness, so how can you harm? How can you even think about harming? So when one beholds one and the same Ishwar existing equally in every being, one does not harm anybody because one considers everything as one's own self and thereupon attains the supreme abode. So the feeling of oneness, that's we need to cultivate. Okay. One who perceives that all works are done by the powers of material nature. See, everything is being done by the Maya, the power of nature. Truly understands and does not consider oneself as the doer. See, that's how the I goes down. I am not the material nature. I am the Atma. Everything is being done by the material nature. What is a big deal? Why become so arrogant? When one sees the diverse variety of beings as rooted in one and spreading out from that alone, one attains the supreme being. Okay, so everything, the energy is coming from that one. Because of being beginningless and unaffectable by the three modes of material nature, the eternal super soul, even though dwelling in the body as a living entity, neither does anything nor becomes tainted by karma or Arjuna. Okay, this is the Vedic philosophy. This is the Gita's philosophy. The Atma, the soul, Paramatma, it's always pure. It does not get tainted. No flaw on it. Where are the flaws? Flaws are only in the something which is changeable. Atma is not changeable. How can there be flaw in it? Flaws are always in the Prakriti part. And we start identifying ourselves with the Prakriti part, and that's where the problem comes. So our attention always should be towards that highest knowledge while taking care of the lower. Okay, so let me read it again. Because of being beginningless and unaffectable by the three modes of material nature. So in other words, the soul does not get affected by the Prakriti. The eternal super soul, even though dwelling in the body as a living entity, neither does anything nor becomes tainted by karma. Just as the all-pervading space is not tainted because of its subtlety. See, space means this Akash element. Akash element, even though it's a part of this material nature, but it is subtler than the other four. It never gets tainted. If there's a snowstorm or there is a dust storm, we think that it has become tainted. But in reality, it does not, because after it moves away, it's clean again. But Atma is even subtler than that. So that's why he says, just as the all-pervading space is not tainted because of the subtlety, similarly, the spirit abiding in all bodies is not tainted. Tainted means flawed or change. Never there is a change in it. Just as one sun illuminates the entire world, similarly, spirit gives life to the entire creation. Okay, so if I feel the sensation in my foot, or in my head, or in my fingertips, even though we say that soul resides here, the effect of that soul is in the entire body. Just like that sun is at one place, but it gives the light and the heat everywhere. They attain the supreme who know. Because Arjuna asked, what is the knowledge? He says, this is the knowledge. They attain the supreme who know with the eye of self-knowledge. The difference between creation and the creator. And our level, the creation is the body, all three bodies, and the creator is the Atma. As well as the technique of liberation of the living entity from the trap of divine illusory energy, Maya. So in other words, the technique should be known too. And what is the technique? He mentioned it in this particular chapter also. I mean, we see it again and again, but in this chapter from verses 24, 25, when he talks about the meditation, when he talks about the devotion, some people can worship very easily, but we got to learn how to worship, what to worship, why to worship. So if you can worship like this, worship God for God's sake, he says you can get liberated. Or if you can want to meditate, if you can meditate very easily, do it through the meditation. Or if you want to do it through the selfless service, Karam Yoga. So whether you predominantly want to walk on the Karam Yoga path, or a Dhyan Yoga path, or a Bhakti Yoga path, doesn't matter. Ultimate goal is the same. Or if you want to combine all these three, because most of us like to combine these three, because predominantly this body is given to us to do seva. That is a Karma Yoga. We all have the body, so use it for the seva. We all have this mind of ours concentrated on the divinity, which is the dhyan. We all have this mind, so we need to use that also. And then we all have the heart, right? The emotions. Just dissolve your emotions at the feet of God. That is a bhakti. So that's why, to me, I think ideally, if we use all these three, we will see the effect of all these three paths coming to us in culmination much faster. Okay, because we use the body for the seva, use the heart for the devotion, use the mind for the dhyan. Okay, so let me read this again. This is the last verse, number 34. They attain the supreme who know with the eye of self-knowledge the difference between creation and the creator, as well as the techniques of liberation. See, ultimate goal is liberation. And liberation means freedom from the lower shackles. Ultimate liberation, sure, whenever it happens, whenever we can just merge. But there are stages of liberation before that too. If the lower things are not bothering us, it's not stopping us from feeling peaceful all the time, we are liberated. That's why the rishis, they called They gave a term to this, Jivan Mukta. You are living, but you are Mukta. And we do feel the freedom certain ways. If somebody doesn't have too many desires, worldly desires, is liberated. Anybody who used to drink, now if the price of the drink is gone higher, is liberated. For smoking, from eating meat, those are all like a shackles. They just connect, keep on pushing us down. When we can we are not affected by it, we are liberated. So we can feel the liberation at every different levels. Okay, so that's why Lord Krishna is saying over here that techniques of liberation of the living entity from the trap of divine illusory energy. So this is an illusion, but we feel trapped. But when we feel this freedom, that's a liberation. And he called this a Maya. That's why I was saying earlier that one of these days I'll open up this Maya word in these classes also, because we often talk about Maya and these three gunas and Ishwar. So these terms should be more clear to us. So, but not today, but some other day I will talk about it. Okay, so that is the end of this chapter. And this author, if you have this book, has elaborated all these verses quite a bit also. So do read the elaboration, the explanation also. See if you understand it. If you have any question, next week when we meet, you can ask the question. So, but pretty powerful chapter, chapter 13. A lot of people get confused also with this chapter. I often hear that rest of the Gita is understandable, but Kshetrajna, it's beyond our comprehension. But if you remember, Kshetra is the creation and Kshetrajna is the power. Okay, whether over here or whether outside. There are only two things. Okay, so Kshetra is the Maya also, or the Prakriti also, and Kshetrajna is the Atma or Paramatma. So any question before we end the class? Kamla, you have a question? No?
No, thank you. Guruji, I have a quick question. Can you please clarify the difference between Gyan and Vidya?
Gyan and Vidya. Vidya is the knowledge. And Vidya could be like a higher or lower also. The knowledge about the secular sciences, that can be called Vidya too. So when we use the word Vidya, it could be any kind of a Vidya. Okay. So Gyan is the Gyan word when they use, that is about the God, Gyan, the truth. Okay.
But the word avidya, you explained it before as
Avidya is
ignorance
the
of the
ignorance.
self.
Yeah, avidya word, the technical word avidya means the ignorance, not knowing yourself. That's avidya.
Does that mean that vidya is the knowledge of the self? But is that not Gyan?
No, vidya word is used for the arts also. See, like a same term, it depends in which connection it has been used.
Okay.
Okay, because vidya word is just the knowledge. But avidya, technical word avidya means ignorance about the self. Avidya. Because that's a technical word in sutras also we read about, and in Gita also, avidya. Ignorance not about the about this secular sciences. A person could have a lot of knowledge about the computers or about this body, but a person who is ignorant about the soul and the God, in that sense, it's called avidya. Sometimes knowing a lot about the secular sciences can make you very arrogant. Then there's a lot of avidya in you, in that sense. Okay, The Sanskrit terms, it's always, we got to look at it in which connotation it has been used. What is the word before and after also with that particular term? Okay? Yeah.
Thank you. Poonam has a question.
Who does it?
Poonam has a question.
Oh, Poonam. Yes, Poonam.
Yeah, yeah. Hi, Masi.
Hi,
So
Beti.
I had a question just to clear, in case I misunderstood. Did you say that your soul is not altered? It's not changed?
No. The
But
soul, the Atma, which is part of God, it does not get changed. It does not become small or big or dirty. No, it does not. It
but
can,
then how does the okay?
by
But then
definition, cannot.
yeah, okay. But then how? Then how? You know how they talk about sanskar, or you're born with good sanskar, you're born in good family. Isn't that your soul that's going to, you
No.
know, is having the rebirth?
Soul is going, but all those sanskars or the effect of your actions are on your subtle body.
But then when
Subtle
you
body.
die, your subtle body is gone and your soul is reborn. So how is that
No,
carried
subtle
then?
body, no, subtle body when it's gone, subtle body is carried by this, it's enveloped with this, soul is enveloped with the subtle body. And the whole journey is that we got to drop off the subtle body also, and Shuddha Buddha Atma merges with Paramatma then. That is called a liberation. Okay?
Okay.
So like when you were born, this time around, you came to this family because of your subtle body. There were some gives and takes, some karmas left between you and the family you were born in. Now, while living in this beautiful body, you are supposed to detach from all that. This detachment is the process for liberation. Doing the duties without getting any attached. You got to make these layers of this personality, man, buddhi, chit, ahankar, thinner and thinner and thinner, and then ultimately they should evaporate. It should be only Shuddha Buddha Atma.
So is that then the moksha?
That is a moksha. That is a
okay.
moksha, nirvana, freedom, mukti, whatever we call it. That's like a Atma. There's no difference between Atma and Paramatma in essence. उसको ब्रह्मलीन भी कह देते हैं, ब्रह्मलीन. Lean
Okay.
means it has really dissolved into that ocean of bliss now. But it's like the subtle body. See, physical body has been given to us by the Prakriti according to our karmas. See, some people have a beautiful physical body. Some people are born with a lot of deformities also. Why does that happen? That's also because of the karmas. Where we are born, how long we're going to live, predominantly are we going to enjoy life, not enjoy life. That is because of the karmas. But then we always have the freedom to choose or not to choose in this life also as a combination of both. Okay?
Okay.
The Atma does not change. Atma is just a witnessing and energy giving to the subtle body also, to the physical body also. Okay?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you know why people get confused that Atma is bigger or smaller? Because of those, in ordinary language, we talk about Dushtatma and Dharmatma, Mahatma, right? We think that certain Atmas are bigger than others. No, in essence, in the real sense, Atma is just a Atma. It's only their actions, their behavior, their conduct are good or not so good.
Okay. Yeah, I was just confused with the Atma. If Atma is not altered, then how your karams, you know, goes
Atma
from birth to birth to birth.
It's only the outer layers which we are trying to clean and ultimately detach. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Good.
Thank you.
I'm glad you are thinking it and just finding it more clear. That's why, see, when we know this knowledge, then this Bhagavad Gita makes sense then. Otherwise, when God says, I'm not doing anything. Because ordinarily people say that, gosh, why God doesn't do something about it? God says, this is the philosophy. I have created it. After that, I don't do anything about it.
Yeah.
I have set up the system, the beautiful plot. And it's the same for everybody.
And I think other struggle that I feel personally is, knowing, I guess I was blessed to be born in this family. So, that bhakti just comes naturally, that blind faith comes naturally, like nothing is above and beyond Prabhuji. We leave everything to him. So those question marks are not in my head because, we just have that faith.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
you have a faith. Yeah. Now, two things with that faith. One is, because of your karmas, your past lives, you took birth in this family where you started at a higher level. But now you have a responsibility also.
Yeah.
Okay. Responsibility towards the society, towards the fellow human beings. Okay. And
to understand, like, I feel that I don't question anything.
Yeah.
Because you just have that faith. So I'm trying to question and actually understand, like from the intellectual.
And this faith was not just, this faith was not just given to you. You cultivated this faith. Because of that faith, you took birth in that kind of a family. So now, what do you do with that faith? Now you again have a freedom. Okay?
Okay.
All right, good.
Thank you.
I have question now, Hershji.
Yes, Kamla.
अभी आपने कहा ज्ञान and अज्ञान. So ज्ञान in you, right? That's inside. You cannot change it, right? And अज्ञान is all over Prakriti.
Yeah, no, अज्ञान हो गया, not knowing that I am the Atma. That is अज्ञान, not knowing. Even though Atma is here,
right?
But we don't know it. We don't feel it. So Atma is not just over here. Atma is everywhere. Not knowing it, not experiencing it. That's Agyan.
Oh, that's it. Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So with the help of the knowledge, and then he gave us those techniques, whether through bhakti or whether through dhyan or whether through seva, we got to just get in touch with this Gyan more and more. And then he even told us what happens when we are in touch with Gyan. Not in this chapter, but in the previous class, we learned that little young adults class, that when you have this Gyan, then there is a peace.
Oh.
There is a inner joy.
Inner joy.
There is a connectedness. There is no restlessness. So that's how we know whether this Gyan is really igniting in us or not. Anybody who says I'm a Gyani and stays perturbed, no. It doesn't work like that. A Gyani will be Shant also. Gyani will be calm also. No matter what happens, it could be a big disaster outside. Outside means it could be the body, it could be the family, it could be the society, it could be anywhere. But the Gyani will be calm.
Shant.
That's how we know. It's not that in Gyani's life things won't happen. If there's a storm outside, storm is for everybody. This COVID is for everybody. Gyani should also need to wash the hands. Gyani cannot say that, no, Atma is everywhere. Atma is in COVID too. I don't need to take care of, do those precautionary things. No. Gyani will do all that, but stays calm. That is the difference between Gyani. And that's how we judge ourselves. If we are walking on this path, we got to keep an eye on our improvement also. Just like when we went to schools, colleges, we were given the exams. And we paid an attention whether we are passing or failing. The same way we got to look at ourselves. Are we progressing or not? That's why these rishis, they gave us those 7 stages of progress. And last Wednesday, we talked about the first two stages. So next Wednesday, we're going to talk about next two stages. That's how we see whether we are progressing or not. Initially, we have to make some effort for the progress.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else? No? Jonathan has a question? Or?
I do, Harjina.
I saw that you were moving closer to your screen. So, yes, Jonathan.
You mentioned that God sets everything in motion, but then stays out of the picture. But sometimes he gives avatars as well. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, he does not get out of the picture.
Yeah.
He always stays in the picture. According to this philosophy, see, there is certain philosophy, they say that God created this and then he's just sitting up in the seventh heaven and watching it. According to this Vedic philosophy, God created it and God is here too. But we don't see him. And avatars are, God comes in a form to take care of a certain problem. When he sees that something is really, it's like because of something, there's a big havoc has been created. So to fix that, he comes, does this, goes back again. So that doesn't mean that that avatar is the complete Brahma. Avatar is a part of that Brahma who came to take care of the problem. Brahma is still everywhere. Avatar is just a part of that Brahma which came not because of the past karmas or anything, came with this purpose. And when the purpose is done, he just lets go of that physical form. God has come in many, many different forms, countless times, according to this philosophy, and will keep coming countless times. And sometimes God comes just to do a small job, sometimes a big one. Like a Lord Krishna, he came, there was a bigger problem. He used a lot of his powers, a lot of tricks he used also, because according to that time, that's what was needed. Okay, so those are the avatars.
So,
Okay.
Another question was, is God different than the Paratma, or are those the same?
Paramatma and God is the same thing. Param means supreme. Okay, we are called Atmas. Paramatma is the supreme, and that is God. Yes. So these are just different terms used. Ishwar, Paramatma, God. Okay. Yeah. Purushottam, that's another term we'll see in chapter 15. That's a Purushottam. Uttam means supreme. Purush is the Atma. So supreme in all the Atmas, that is God. So these are just a different terminology, same meaning. Okay. So that's it. No more question. Okay, let's just say our Gayatri mantra and then we'll end the class, and I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, tomorrow in Sundays we are we go slowly in detail, verse by verse, chapter 13 we are at. Okay, so Om Bhuva Swaha Tatsavitra Varenayam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Diyo Yo Nah Prachodaya. Okay, thank you very much. So Kim, you can unmute everybody if anybody has any other person.